Okay, so get this. Bret Stephens,
Uh-huh.
the conservative New York Times columnist, he's always been a thorn in Trump's side.
Right.
He is endorsing Kamala Harris for president.
Oh.
Whoa, it sounds crazy, right? I mean, what could possibly make a staunch conservative like Stephens jump ship like this?
Yeah. Well, we've been going through this article in the Daily Beast, and let me tell you, the reasoning behind this endorsement,
Yeah.
it's wild.
Yeah, it really is a head-scratcher, especially when you consider Stephens' history.
Right.
This isn't like, someone who jumped on the anti-Trump train late in the game.
Right.
Like, his disapproval goes back years.
Absolutely. I mean, he was calling for Trump's impeachment back in 2018.
Oh, yeah.
And in 2020, he was basically begging Republicans to consider Biden.
Yeah.
He even wrote this really powerful line that I think kind of sums up his core belief. He said, "The domestic issue of our time is not the size of government.
Right.
It's the unity of the country."
That is really key here.
I mean, Stephens's concern wasn't just about, like policy disagreements.
Right.
It was about, like, the fabric of American society being torn apart by Trump's divisive rhetoric. And, that's what makes this endorsement so fascinating. It speaks to a fear that runs so deep that it's pushing him to support someone that he's been openly critical of in the past.
Totally. And speaking of critical,
Yeah.
remember that time that Stephens appeared on Real Time with Bill Maher?
Oh, yeah, yeah.
I mean, for those who don't know, it's a late-night talk show known for its political commentary. And, well, let's just say things can get pretty heated.
Yeah.
But anyway, Stephens was really grilling Kamala Harris about her lack of in-depth interviews and really clearly articulated positions.
Yeah.
He just wanted more substance. you know?
Right. Right. And that led to that, like, viral moment with Stephanie Ruhle.
Oh, yeah.
Where she basically told Stephens, look, the choice is between Trump and Harris, right? You can't just sit on the sidelines.
Right.
And it really highlighted the difficult position that a lot of voters were in, facing what they saw as two less than ideal options.
Talk about a rock and a hard place, right?
Totally.
So fast forward to today.
Okay.
Stephens is still clearly not thrilled with everything about Harris.
Yeah.
He even reportedly called her vacuous and private.
Whoa.
But his fear of Trump winning a second term seems to overshadow everything else.
He literally said that his vote is 99.999% against Trump.
Wow.
And only 0.001% for Harris.
Wow.
Think about that for a second.
Yeah.
A conservative stalwart like Stephens willing to endorse a Democrat because his fear of what Trump would do to the country is that intense.
Right.
It's pretty mind-blowing.
And it gets even more interesting
Yeah.
when you consider Trump's reaction to Stephens' criticism.
Oh, yeah.
Calling him a Trump-hating loser.
Oh, wow.
And confused. It just adds fuel to the fire, doesn't it?
Absolutely. And that's where Stephens' like real anxieties come into play.
Right.
He doesn't just dislike Trump. He's terrified of the long-term damage a second Trump presidency could do to the Republican Party, potentially shifting it towards a far more extreme and isolationist direction.
He uses this really powerful image.
Yeah.
He wants to drive a stake into the heart of Trumpism.
Wow.
It's like he's facing this monster he helped create.
Right.
And now he's desperately trying to stop it before it devours everything he believes in.
He's worried about what he calls an isolationist and nativist conservative movement taking root.
Right.
And he sees another Trump win as solidifying that shift for generations to come.
Yeah.
I mean, it's a pretty bleak outlook, but you can see why he's so alarmed.
Oh, totally. And, it's not just about domestic policy.
Right.
Stephens is also deeply concerned about Trump's foreign policy, especially when it comes to allies like Ukraine.
Exactly. And this ties back to that earlier point about national unity.
Right.
Stephens sees Trump's America First approach as damaging not only to the U.S.'s global standing, but also to its relationships with key allies.
Right.
He's worried about the ripple effects of another Trump presidency on the international stage.
It's like he's saying, look, we can't just retreat into ourselves and ignore the rest of the world.
Right.
We have obligations, we have partnerships.
Yes.
And we need to be a force for good on the global stage.
Yeah.
And he sees Trump dismantling all of that.
And remember, this is coming from someone who's a conservative, not like a bleeding heart liberal.
Right.
This isn't about partisan politics.
Right.
It's about a fundamental belief in America's role in the world.
It's a pretty powerful statement, and it makes you wonder how many other conservatives out there share these anxieties. Yeah. Are we seeing a silent majority who are deeply uncomfortable with the direction Trump is taking their party?
That's the million-dollar question, isn't it?
Yeah.
I mean, Stephens might just be the tip of the iceberg.
Right.
Like, his endorsement could be a canary in the coal mine.
Right.
A sign that there's a growing rift within the Republican Party between those who embrace Trumpism and those who are desperately trying to hold on to a more traditional vision of conservatism.
It's a fascinating and frankly unsettling situation. You have this prominent conservative figure, someone who's spent his career arguing for conservative values, now endorsing a Democrat. And not out of, some newfound love for her policies, but out of this deep, visceral fear of what another 4 years of Trump would do to his party and his country.
And that raises some really important questions for all of us, regardless of where we stand on the political spectrum. What happens when fear becomes the driving force behind our political decisions? Can fear ever be a legitimate basis for supporting a candidate you don't necessarily agree with?
These are questions that go beyond this specific election. They speak to the state of our democracy, the polarization that's tearing us apart, and the difficult choices we're all forced to make in this hyper-partisan environment.
Stephens' story is a stark reminder that sometimes the political landscape forces us to make decisions. We never thought we'd have to make decisions that challenge our long-held beliefs and allegiances. And it's a reminder that the stakes in this election are incredibly high. Not just for the presidency, but for the very soul of the Republican Party and the future of American politics.
Yeah, it really makes you think.
It does.
This isn't just about, like, red versus blue anymore.
No.
It's about something, like, way deeper. A fundamental clash of visions, for what the Republican Party and maybe even America itself should stand for.
Exactly. And that's where Stephens' story, I think, becomes so relevant to all of us, even if we don't agree with his politics. You know what I mean? It forces us to confront some uncomfortable questions about our own beliefs and the choices that we're making in this election.
Like, are we voting for the person we truly believe in? Or are we just voting against the person we fear the most?
Totally.
And what happens when those two things aren't the same?
It's a tough dilemma. And there are no, easy answers. But, I mean, that's the beauty of these deep dives, right?
Exactly.
We're not here to tell you what to think. We're here to help you grapple with these complex issues, see them from different perspectives, and hopefully come away with a deeper understanding of what's at stake.
So we've seen how a conservative voice like Stephens, who has, spent his career arguing against someone like Kamala Harris, can find himself in this incredibly unusual position of endorsing her, driven by a fear so profound that it overrides everything else.
It's a stark reminder that the political landscape is constantly shifting. And sometimes those shifts force us to make, difficult choices, choices that might challenge our long-held assumptions and allegiances.
So as we head into this election season, we encourage you to think about Stephens' story. What does it say about the state of the Republican Party? Does his endorsement represent a broader trend among conservatives? Or is he just an outlier? And what implications might this have for the election and beyond?
These are all questions worth pondering. Keep them in mind.
As you navigate the news and form your own opinions. And as always, we're here to help you dive deeper.
Absolutely.
Into the issues that shape our world.
And that's it for this deep dive.
Until next time.